I'm with Wayne King, principal of Spring Hill High School, and we're going to talk to Wayne, of course, about Spring Hill Lumberjack football. You were a Lumberjack football coach for about 6 years, Wayne, right?
That's right, Johnny, from 1969 until around 1975, 76 in that era.
That was one of the golden eras. We've had many golden eras of Lumberjack football, but that was particularly some fine football teams during that time.
Yeah, Johnny, in thinking back over those 6 years, I believe we made it into the playoffs just about every year except one during that period of time. Of course, in the year that Danny Curtis and Mike Daniel and Ricky Pace and that group, Randy Swallow and several others in there. I can't recall because so many years and names get a little slipped away. But when you see those faces, you never forget them. That they had an excellent ball club that year. Of course, went down to the semifinals and played in Hammond here, and maybe a fumble here, a first down there could have made a difference in the game. But that was one of the fine ball clubs. And of course, I go back and think about Mike Howell and David Gray, and with those young men went off to college, and David went down to Southwestern Louisiana and did real well, and Mike played a year or so over at Northeast, and there were some fine athletes that came through that period of time. Of course, we have been fortunate to have some fine athletes throughout the years, but Lumberjack football is a specialty in itself, in that once one becomes a Lumberjack, either as a ball player or a coach, it gets in your blood and you never get it out. It stays with you, and the fine memories that brings to mind throughout my experience with it is a joy of a lifetime. And of course, now looking back and being principal of the school, it even gives me greater pleasure to watch them play and be a part of it still.
You've been principal since what year, Wayne?
Of course, this is my third year here at the high school, but in all combined, serving here as 4 years as an assistant and 7 years as a principal of the junior high, and back my third year here, so we're looking at the 14th year now.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, since you've been principal. It's been great. The Spring Hill Lumberjacks have lost very few games.
They have, Johnny. That's true. Of course, my first year back over here was when we went down all the way to the semifinals, playing South Cameron. That's South Cameron, and then of course last year we made it to the finals, and this year we're in the playoffs again. And again, great experience. A lot of these young men that we see coming now. We see them growing up and so forth, and I either coached their parents, their daddy, or was in contact, or knew their mothers when they were coming through school, and so I'm getting to see the young people growing up, and another generation is coming to pass now, and that's another plus and a joy to see the young people coming forward from the parents that you either knew or coached or was a part of their growing up.
Wayne, I want to ask you about something else. I know that you're a very proud father, and your son, John King, played for Spring Hill High School, now playing for Northwestern. But I want to ask you about that particular football team. I know you were closely associated with it, but you weren't really directly associated with it. Tell us a little bit about that football team. I know it was a good one, and I know we lost in the playoffs. In the south end of the football field, and I know you remember it well. Tell us a little bit about that football team, what kind it was.
Johnny, it was a unique team in that it kept you on the edge of your seats throughout the whole season, knowing that they are capable and wanting to play, and then being second place in the district in regular season, and then going to the playoffs, and then they win the state championship was a joy of a lifetime. I reflect back many times at home, when particularly my son would come home from practice or a ball game. He was very quiet, would not talk much about it, and did not want to talk about it. And so if I wanted to know something or find out something, I'd either have to contact Coach Farrell or ask some of the other ball players. But I think this is a unique thing in ball players, that they play the game in practice, but they don't care too much about talking about it, so they do it on the field. But that year in 1985, every year, Johnny, when it rolls around to December the 16th, 17th, and 18th, usually the night that we get out of school for the Christmas holidays, I take the championship tape and I put it in my VCR, and I look at it and reflect back of the joy that my son gave my wife and I and my family, my mother and daddy and his grandmother, and the joy that those young men did. And I can just about call them by name, who they were.
Wish you would. Why don't you?
Oh, let's see. Looking back was James Dozart at the center, Tim Stampley at a linebacker, John King at a one tackle, Eric Clayton at another tackle. We look back at the
Mark Horn at a guard.
Mark Horn would graduate the year before.
That's right, he certainly did.
But they had Epps at quarterback and Andre Thomas at a tight end, and the little Mac Williams.
Ricky?
No, it was his brother was the one that Robbie.
Right, Robbie.
And the passes he caught in that in that championship game is still something to behold. And you look at the defensive backs, and you look at those linebackers, and you remember Brian Driscoll, and I could just go on and on thinking about the things that group of kids did and what it looked like in that dome. Because at halftime it was 14-0. And then at the end of the game, of course, it was 19-14. But there's an ironical thing that took place that night. And I want to point this out to whoever's out in the audience. In my junior year, in my hometown, we won the state championship. 19-14 by the exact score, I believe is correct. And we beat the 19 Iron Men from Homer, Louisiana. And the day that we played for the state championship that night in the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, my high school coach, backfield coach, died around 5 o'clock that evening. And it was ironical that he should die on that exact date, that the connection of me and him, because he coached me. I served under him as an assistant coach before I came to Spring Hill. My son was down there. He saw him. He was 11 months old before we left there, and my son was playing in the championship game.
Against the same ball club.
Against the same ball club.
That is ironic.
It was something that bothered me. But when I went back to my room after the game about 11 or so o'clock that night, I got a phone call of his death, and it was just like that. He waited till that day to die, and it's something that I'll never forget, and I had a lot of respect for that man. Now I always will. But those are the things that come back and reflect to you.
Yeah, and Wayne, while we were just talking about it, I can, in my mind's eye, I've had the privilege of broadcasting Lumberjack football for many years, but that was the first time that I'd had the privilege of saying the Lumberjacks are state champions. And I, in my mind's eye, I can still see Marcus Epps fading back for a pass, throwing that football, and in the north end of the Superdome, zing, he pulls it in, and the Spring Hill Lumberjacks won.
And Johnny, again, you go back, and it makes me get tight all over to remember about that ball game and what happened. And I guess the reason I play it back every year is I want to be sure that score stays the same. And they may laugh about it, but you just get that type of feeling about it. But I'd like to say that serving as a parent at that time, not associated with Spring Hill High School, other than my child being a part of it, that I stayed in the background and let him have the experience of being coached by a good coaching staff. It may be the finest in the state, and let him take his lumps, his knocks,
and the joys.
And the joy that goes with it, all the pain and agony and the joy, that it was worth an experience of a lifetime. And I can reflect back, because a couple of weekends ago he played ball at Northwestern and did not have an exceptionally good game, and he was very upset because Coach Gills, who coached him in high school, was at the game, and he wished he'd have played better. So last week, Coach Gills went back down there, and he had a better ball game, and he took some pride in what he was representing in the reflection. And the thing that we got to keep in mind, that whenever you go through Spring Hill High School, Spring Hill Lumberjack football, is that wherever you go, you're representing the community of Spring Hill, the high school here, the character and the football legends and all the things that came throughout all the years. That's a part of you. And wherever you go, people say, hey, Spring Hill High School, hey, we know that football team. We know what what that school represents. We know that they have turned out ball players. They have turned out doctors, lawyers, people that have went on to be very, very successful. And you can find them all over the world, even as a reflection of what was given to them here. And that's what I appreciate more than anything else. Of the 20 years that I've been in Spring Hill, is the things that have been given to me, that I've been blessed with, and that the people have done for me. And that's why I want to try to do something and give it back to them, because that tradition has got to go on.
Right, and it is going on, Wayne. And let's talk just a little bit about the football team last year. That was an outstanding football team. Went to the finals in the state championship, and it came down to one play, and we lost it on one play and lost it by 14-12.
Well, those things are going to happen, Johnny. That football team last year showed character, class of a group of young men that were amazing to me. They played against teams that could very easily have really whipped us bad, but they wouldn't let it happen. They rose to the occasion. When you think back who we beat, Ville Platte High School, you go over to the Riverside over at
Tallulah.
Over in the Tallulah area where we played against
Rayville.
And Rayville, that a great football team that came out of there. And then when you look at Welch, we played against some Jim Dannies last year, and I'll be honest with you, I thought history was going to repeat itself. With 6 minutes to go, we're leading 12-0, and then we get beat 14-12. But I cannot hang my head. Those young people that have no reason to hang their heads, they accomplished one goal after another, and I'm very, very proud of it.